My first palette that I ever panned. Hi, thank you so much for joining me here today on my channel and for this video, which is going to be palettes that I've hit pan on. Yeah, today I'm going to share with you all the palettes that I've hit pan on. So if that sounds like something you want to see, just keep watching. So the first palette that I completely panned, well, that might be a bit of a stretch. Let me rephrase. Okay. So the first palette that I hit pan on was my very first ever palette. This was my first eyeshadow palette that I ever purchased myself. Sorry for all the terrible lighting. I purchased this palette after I got up the nerve to go from only having 3 eyeshadow singles that I would completely pan and then replace to actually purchasing a whole palette. Here is what my palette looks like. Ooh, she's gotten some love. Let's take a good look here. Can you see the pans? Yeah, none of these broke out. These were completely used. So in hindsight, I can see I was not really drawn to the warmer tones. I was really more drawn to the cool tones in here. But at the time, I didn't really have a good understanding of the difference between cool and warm tones. My first palette that I ever hit pan on was the Tartelette in Bloom. This still smells delicious and holds so many sweet memories. I actually wore this on all of my job interviews for my paralegal positions, on all of my model go-see calls, on all of my acting auditions, and for all of my day-to-day and going out looks. This was the only eyeshadow that I had at the time in my life, and I used it for everything. Yeah. Okay. Next, in the theme of Tarte, I had this highlight and bronzer maybe, or contour palette, and I panned both of these. They were the only highlighter and bronzer contour type product that I had at the time. Once I finished using the Tartelette in Bloom, I got my very first ever, pretty sure, which one was my first? Pretty sure this one was my first. This was my very first ever ABH palette. And I loved it so much. This is what mine looks like. I have some serious dips going in the mattes, even the black. And I still have the brush in here. I've never taken it out. I never touched the coral shade, and I hardly touched the shimmers, but I do have a little bit of dips going in them. But yeah, so this was my next most used palette. I really loved that palette a lot. And I also had the Modern Renaissance, of course. I didn't really find myself using this one very much, but it did expire and it has some good dips going in it. So it's out of commission now. I thought I had hit pan in at least one of them, but I just have some like serious dips. You can see this brown one is almost like to pan, and same with this like mauve cool tone one. But I didn't really get a whole lot of use out of this palette. Next, I have the Norvina palette. I loved this palette. This was my very first ever colorful palette. This is what she looks like. I do have a good pan going in this shade. It was my absolute favorite color in this palette. That's the Soul. Can you see that? Oh, yeah. So I loved this palette so much that when it expired, I purchased another one. However, by the time I had done that, I've already kind of moved on to different color stories and like broadened my horizons a little bit past what I felt like I could get out of this palette. And so I find that I haven't used that palette very much. So I'm not repurchasing palettes anymore after I pan them. it's time to say goodbye and move on to another one. So that's where I'm at now. Okay, and the last palette, eyeshadow palette that I have to share with you. Oh, I thought I hit pan in this. Girl, I didn't even make a dip. Okay, this is just an honorable mention. There are no dips hardly in this. You see that? Hardly any usage. That was embarrassing. Okay, well anyways, this is out of commission because it's very well expired and old. So I have it over here with my panned palettes. Okay, and so the last honorable mention for a palette that I have is this MAC 9 pan. This is the Amber color story. And I used this a lot. If you look, you can see I've got some serious dips going, like in some of these mattes and these shimmers back here. A couple of these shades I hardly touched, but some of the others are like about to hit the dip, especially this like pink one right there. Anyway, honorable mention. Okay, let's get some dips. Like, let's get some serious pans showing, okay? Let's look at some pans. That's what we're here to see. And I don't know, I got sidetracked on those others, my bad. Anyways, this is a blush that I panned. This is how much I used of it. This is one of those Too Faced Love blushes. This is a super bright, punchy coral, and I really enjoyed it. I love it a lot. This is what the shade name is. And then another Too Faced blush that I panned is this beautiful, adorable little Papadone Peach. Like, I used it. It's almost gone. And then it expired, so I replaced it and got another one. It's still in my collection. As a matter of fact, my replacement one is in my current panning project. So if you haven't seen my panning project, my intro to my current panning project, which also happens to be my very first ever official panning project, I'll be sure to link that down below in the description box in case you're interested in watching it. But yeah, that's really all I've got to share with you today. So I hope you enjoyed checking out some of the pans and some of the palettes that I have loved in the past. I really enjoyed having a chance to walk down my memory lane, memory basket, my makeup memory box. That's it, that's the one. I really enjoyed having the chance to go through my makeup memory box with you and share some of my beloved past palettes. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Let me know some of the palettes that you've hit pan on or some of the palettes that you want to hit pan on. Yeah, and don't forget to check out my panning project intro. I'll leave that link down below. Thank you so much for joining me for another one of my videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.